Hey, Sean, how's it going?
It's okay.
You know what we should really do?
What are we doing?
Well, what we should do is a promo. You know, like a short little spot that other podcasters can play on their podcasts to let their listeners know where to find us.
Find us for what?
Find us so that they can listen to us. Do you know the 5 podcasts and sites people can find us on?
I know at least 3 of them.
Ooh, let's know the 3 that you know.
Oh, well, I know Apple Podcasts, Chorus.
Yeah, if you have the Chorus app, you're goddamn right we're on Chorus.
That's us. Stitcher.
You're goddamn right.
What? That's 3 right there.
That's 3.
Holy shit.
We're also on Spotify.
We just got on Spotify.
We just recently got on Spotify. But
welcome to Spotify.
If you're listening to this in the future, we've been on Spotify for a while. But finally, you can listen to us on Podbean, drunkdiscussions.podbean.com.
Yeah, what do we do on these sites? What is our podcast?
We post podcasts. We get drunk and we review stuff.
Holy shit. Do we have disjunctions as we are drunk?
We have discussions while we're drunk. Yes, that is 100% correct.
I might be a little drunk right now.
We record live from a bar. In addition to listening to us, you can find us on Twitter at DrunkDPodcast. Be sure you're checking out our shirts and merchandise on Spreadshirt, shop.spreadshirt.com/drunkdiscussions. And of course, check us out on any of those podcasts and apps that we mentioned. Be sure to leave us a rating and a comment. Enjoy the rest of the podcast that you're listening to. Bye-bye.
A woman was screaming bloody murder back there.
It's Mrs. Espinosa.
Please go back to your apartment.
We know the scream is the same as you.
Well, at least get out of the way. Let people do their jobs. They with you?
Yeah, they're shadowing us for the night.
And your responsibility then, all right? I tell you not to film something, you don't film it, all right? I tell you to get lost, you get lost. You got it?
No problem.
We're standing outside an elderly woman's apartment. Neighbors heard screams and called 911. The fire department's about to begin the rescue process. Police say that she lives alone. She's not very social.
It's okay.
It's all right.
Everything's gonna be fine.
Ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
What's wrong with her?
Ma'am.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
All right, be careful down these stairs. Hang in there, buddy. Come on.
Tape everything. You hear me? Tape everything. It's locked.
What do you mean? They won't let us out. Who the hell locked those doors?
It's not us. Something is closing it from outside.
There we have an officer down. I need an ambulance immediately. I need backup. Does anybody come?
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I'm your host, Jason Bishop, and as far as I know, rabies free?
You're foaming a little bit, Jay, but I think you're okay.
Okay, well, mildly infected with rabies? Is there such a thing as mildly?
No, it's a kind of an all or none deal.
Just got a touch of rabies.
It's just a hint. It'll clear up in a day.
Got a little hantavirus, a little rabies. We touch a cancer. It's all good.
It's a delicate balance of awful.
It's like being kind of pregnant.
Kind of, yeah.
Trish Coughlin, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
And Sam Stepanenko.
Who is not kind of pregnant.
Not even a little?
Not even a little.
Even being partly just seems terrifying to me.
It is. It's a pretty frightening concept when you think about it.
We're talking about Record. Mm-hmm. It was bracketed REC. It's a Spanish film, kind of zombie-ish, but kind of not. And the American remake called Quarantine from 2008, and Rec was 2007, so Hollywood liked this and didn't waste any time. Yeah, the sequel for Rec was just, I think, getting into like this advertising swing by the time Quarantine came out. Since then, there are 4 wrecks and 2 quarantines, so they did a hell of a lot better in Spain than they did here.
I don't know why they even remade this piece of shit. Did I say that out loud?
Oh! You and me are gonna have a little bit of a throwdown. I think
we might.
I love Wreck,
but I do have a funny story. I was watching Wreck, and my wife comes downstairs and she says, "You know this is available in English, right?"
She does know what you do, right?
Yeah,
After all this time.
But yeah, I think it took her a second to realize that I was watching it for the show, right?
Okay.
It's for the show. She goes, but it's in English. And then she goes, oh. It took her a minute, yeah. She wasn't paying attention.
But have you someone explain to her, just because something is available in English doesn't mean it's better?
Yeah, granted, with foreign material, I was always watching in its original language to get the proper performances. Hopefully the subtitles aren't shitty. Sometimes you get those ones where it's like a translation of a translation, and there's just, I don't think they said that.
Because it makes no sense whatsoever.
Thankfully the ones, the translations I had were great. So.
Like, not only are you reading, you're translating what it says on the screen at the same time in your head, being like, that's probably what they meant.
Yeah, there was a trailer I have lined up. It will be in Spanish, but from my point of view, because I'm streaming it off of YouTube, I can see the translations underneath, and they're terrible and hilarious. So if you go find the Spanish trailer of Wreck on YouTube with the subtitles, please go check that out, because it is awesome and hilarious.
Actually, you know what? When we post this episode, we'll post a link to it.
Okay.
We will. We keep promising to do that, but we will for sure for this one.
Yeah.
You know what? And this is the thing I have to say: if you don't like foreign movies, just sometimes watch them, because the translation of what they're saying can sometimes be just as entertaining as the entire movie.
Absolutely.
In some cases, more entertaining than the movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It depends on how lazy they were with the translations. Yeah. Well, before we get to these movies, I scored something really cool today at work. As a lot of our regular listeners know, I run a comic book store. But sometimes other things come in those lots that when people sell off their stuff. So I had a guy just reached in his bag, he pulled out a handful of comics, and I made him a quick offer. But the 2 exciting things that in there that weren't comic books were an entire press kit for the Fox releases from 1997, as well as a press kit for Aliens Resurrection from the same year. So what I'm going to do for all of our listeners, and by the time you hear this episode, they will already be up, but I'm going to scan all the photos from the press kit and slowly release them one movie at a time, and we'll end with Aliens Resurrection on @Invasion Remake Twitter feed. I think it'll be a fun place to do. I was going to put it up on my personal Facebook, and I'm like, no. This is for our guys. So if you're not already following us on Twitter, there's lots of cool stuff, some rare press kit photos, and I will take some snapshots of some of the other stuff. But it's the photos that I think people are going to really dig, and maybe we'll get some of that up on Instagram as well.
Yeah, we'll try. Yeah, I mean, we do neglect our Instagram a little bit, but mostly because I can't do it from my computer.
Right.
If I could do it directly from my computer, Instagram would be just as busy as Twitter.
It's a bit of a pain in the arse trying to compose that stuff from phones and iPads and stuff.
Oh, yeah. If it's not, you've got to be able to do it.
It's going to hit Twitter first for sure. I'm not so crazy about the Instagram either, but eventually, you know what? We'll make it a Twitter exclusive for about a month before I move it over to Instagram. How about that? So if you're not following us on Twitter yet, @Invasion Remake, and I will slowly release stuff from that press kit, and it's cool. There's Aliens Resurrection is definitely the one everybody's going to want to see, but there's some weird ones in there, like the animated film Anastasia's in that press kit, Home Alone 3. What else did we see
Soul
in there?
Food?
Soul Food. I don't even know what the fuck that was, but looking through that release for 1997, and there was actually a little tease for their 98 releases, and I'm like, oof, you didn't have a good year, did you, Fox?
Well, and there was The Edge with Anthony Hopkins.
That was, is it called The Edge?
I think it was The Edge,
with the bear?
Yeah,
I love that movie. I'll put those near the end, too, because there's some really cool photos in that.
And A Life Less Ordinary with Cameron Diaz and Ewan McGregor.
That's right.
Which is a movie I really like.
Yeah, so I'll slowly release those over the next few weeks over on Twitter as I get them scanned. I don't want to do overload. I'll do like maybe one a day or something. But by the time you hear this episode, most of it's going to be up because this won't run for another week or so.
Yeah, you're like a dealer, just giving them a little taste.
A little
getting them
taste.
hooked.
Yeah, not everything will be up by the time you hear this, but a lot of it will be. But we're going to end on a bang with the alien stuff. So
yeah, because even with a bad movie, the aliens are still cool.
I like Resurrection.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
not great, but it's better than 3.
Yeah.
See, I kind of liked 3, and for the basketball scene, I checked out a bit at that point.
The human alien hybrid that looks like Pumpkinhead was a bit lazy, but
yeah. The part of Ripley having a bit of alien DNA in her, I kind of liked, but yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's an interesting experiment, that movie, I think.
I agree. And hey, if anybody knows how to get a hold of other press kits like that, let me know, because I'd be interested. They're really cool.
Twitter shares.
Yeah, if you got some of your own, yeah, let's see yours as well. All right, we're going to talk some Rec here. Spanish film from 2007. JC, if you're listening to this episode, please forgive me because I'm going to butcher a whole fuckload of names here.
Yeah.
Directed by, I'm going to say Jaime, maybe it's Wam, Balaguero, and Paco Plaza. They also were involved with the script along with Luiso Verdejo. Verdejo also wrote Rec 3 Genesis. This movie was budgeted at around $2 million and had a worldwide gross of $32.4, almost $32.5 million. So low budget, scored big for these guys. No wonder they made a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, no wonder why they went straight to do 2 and try and keep that momentum.
Correct. And, the directors are pretty much just stuck with the franchise. There's not much else on their resume. It has a 7.5 out of 10 IMDb score, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 88%, with a slightly less audience score of 81%. So most people, not including Sam, like this movie.
I liked it too.
Starring Manuela Velasco, that's probably going to be the easiest name I hit, as Angela. When she was cast in this film, she was actually a TV presenter. Most of these were not established actors, so they seemed as real as possible, and she would have been known as a TV presenter, kind of doing what she's doing in this movie, which is why it feels so natural when she's doing it.
Oh, she was very good.
Yeah, I think she's great. She's actually better than Jennifer Carpenter in the role, but I didn't mind Jennifer either. I have a tough time seeing anything but Deborah Morgan.
That's the thing. She seemed... Yeah, I was used to like a tougher Deborah Morgan, and I was like, why is Deborah letting this stuff happen to her? Damn it, Deborah.
She'll keep waiting for her brother to show up.
Yeah.
Farron has... I should have practiced, but it's more fun to just butcher them, isn't it? Farron Terraza, George Yemen Serrano, Pablo Rosso. Oh, thank you, Pablo. You know who Pablo played?
Manu?
Pablo.
Oh. I thought it was a trick question.
Nope. Well, yeah, it was. And David Vert and a whole bunch of other names I'll probably mispronounce, so I'm just not going to try anymore.
There are a lot of people in this movie too.
It's a short little movie too.
It is. It's quite short.
Yeah,
and they're both short.
And I mean, I'm hacking on this film. I already hacked on this film a little bit, and to be honest, there's 2 reasons I didn't like it. One is I'm...
You hate found footage, yes, I know.
It's not even that. When it's really well done...
I didn't warn you for a reason.
Yeah. When it's really well done, I really enjoy it, typically. But I found this movie really, really shouty, and I'm done on zombies. I just am. I think if I had watched this when it came out, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah, I haven't seen the full franchise. I definitely have seen the first one, because it was still... Details were fairly memorable in my brain, and it had been years. I'm not sure if I've seen the second one. I know it does pick up in the same building, I think probably shortly after this one, but I don't know if I've seen it. I have seen both Quarantine movies, though. Quarantine 2 is just, terrible. It's just basically zombies on a plane, which there is a zombies on a plane that's way better.
Was Samuel L. Jackson talking about those motherfucking zombies?
No, he's not on there, but, you wish he was, just so he could say the line.
And then he gets eaten.
The remake was just a year later, 2008, with a budget of $12 million. The original movie was shot on location and in chronological order that you see it in the film. The cast was given only partial scripts so you could get the most genuine reactions from them as well, which was pretty cool.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah, actually, when that dude falls from the stairs, the fireman...
Yeah. Nobody knew
that was going to happen. So their reactions are pretty genuine of shock and surprise.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know how you make that happen without anybody knowing it's going to happen, but I guess that's part of the blocking. Nobody's going to be underfoot when it happens.
Well, that's true. You have all the blocking where you might have the director being like giving like some instructions to be like, this is what's happening now. And nobody's looking up during a scene, really.
Apparently, Quarantine was also shot in sequence. I guess they're just trying to recapture that magic. In fact, the end scene, Jennifer Carpenter wanted it to be pitch black and she didn't want to walk through of the location. So she's grabbing around. It would just feel very genuine. And I guess it looked okay.
I read that,
and
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. But they did build these sets, and it's very obvious because they look like a clone of the original sets.
Pretty much, yeah.
As much of this movie as they could. It's very, the script is very close, and we'll get into the differences here. Like I said, budget was $12 million, had an opening weekend in the U.S. of 14.2, and had a U.S. total gross of 31.7 U.S., which is okay. It's a modest hit, and it probably did just a little bit better worldwide, and that's probably why Quarantine 2, I don't think, got a theatrical. I think it was just straight to video, but
it sounds like
it was enough to make another one, I guess.
Yeah, once you have promotional, it's very, very moderate what it would have made.
Yeah.
Not very much.
This was directed by John Eric Dowdle, who did actually kind of like some of his stuff. He's mainly a horror movie director, As Above, So Below, which I thought was decent, and the Poughkeepsie Tapes, which is also a pretty decent movie. Screenplay was by John Eric Dowdle again, and his brother Drew, I'm guessing, Drew Dowdle, who wrote Quarantine 2 Terminal, which has nothing to do with the Rec 2. IMDb score of 6 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes has been a lot less kind to the American one, which is interesting. 59% is the critic score with a 44% audience score, and Metacritic of 53. So it's a below average movie.
Yeah, the audience score kind of surprised me. I thought usually it's bigger than the critics, but not in this case.
And they were trying to make it feel genuine. I mean, it doesn't have a score like a traditional Hollywood movie would have. The camera works a little bit better. They try to give most of the residents of the building a little more character, but as they start doing it, it does feel a bit movie tropish a bit, where you're just, okay, you got to give characters even a modicum of personality, and you don't need to, because this is kind of a window of an event. You don't really need to get to know these people because they're all going to get eaten anyway.
Well, and the thing is and the one thing they I have to say they did really well in the original is that sense of loss and terror, especially as it progresses. It's just that you do feel terrified for them because it's just noise. They're so terrified that there's nothing coherent about it. And it works really well for the film. It doesn't mean I liked it, but it does. I can acknowledge how well it worked.
Yeah. Well, let's let our audience judge by sound, because I'm going to run the original trailer in its original Spanish language, because the English version of the Rec trailer doesn't have any words. It's actually words on a screen, so it's not going to sound very good. So here's your chance to pull out your Spanish to English dictionaries, or at least call up your Spanish friends and say, what the fuck are they saying?
Like I did. Pick out what you knew, words you can recognize. Just do that.
That's right. But I think at least you'll get a sense of the performances, which I think is most important. And of course, later on, we will run the Quarantine trailer. So sit back, enjoy the minute and a half, and we'll talk some Rec and Quarantine. We'll really get into it after this trailer.
Muy buenas noches, les habla Ángela Vidal. Hoy vamos a acompañar a una patrulla de bomberos en su recorrido nocturno por las calles de nuestra ciudad. Voy. Estamos frente a la puerta de la casa en la cual parece ser que una vecina ha tenido algún problema. Los tiros...
¡Llama a la policía!
Dejar de grabar ya. Perdón, puto caso, Pablo, sigue grabando.
Viene una ambulancia inmediatamente. Muy bien. Es un género muy...
La situación es insostenible. Hay 2 muertos. seguridad acaba de entrar en el edificio y nos van a seguir diciendo que no pasa nada, ¿no?
¡Tú deja de grabarme una puta vez, joder!
Exactamente igual lo que te diga, no tenemos que grabar, y hay que contar lo que está pasando.
I feel like I know a little more Spanish now than I did before.
Well, knowing 2 words instead of 1 is definitely an improvement.
Yes.
That's double.
Panicked Spanish. And I'm not going to do an impression because that would be rude.
Yeah, it would.
It would. I'm not going to do it.
And we're not above being rude, but it's when it's appropriate to be rude.
That's right. Yeah. I don't know. I'll do a terrible impression on some other episode where it has nothing to do with it.
I might use the swear words because I can pick those out.
Oh, there you go.
Mierda.
Yeah, I have a friend in Mexico I went through film school with that I would have loved to have had on this episode. Should have called him. Oh well. Next time we do a Spanish movie, I'll try to get a hold of him. So, yeah, Rec, at its heart, is very much a infection zombie-esque movie. But there's one important detail in the original film, because they are a little more vague as what this virus is, where the American one is very defined of what it is.
Yes, which I didn't like.
Yeah, because it took out something very important, even though the movies are very similar, is the movie itself is almost a commentary between faith and science. Mm-hmm. When you change it to something very defined like a uber rabies, which I think is dumb, well, it takes away that commentary, and then your movie says nothing.
Well, once they got to uber rabies, I kept thinking 28 days later, and it does seem like it got to a ripoff type of feeling that I felt.
Yeah, I mean, the movies are very similar. The staging's the same. The main basic scenes are the same.
The pacing is almost identical.
Yeah, there is more gore as you start seeing the residents where there's a lot of off-camera infection happening. In the original film, you do wind up seeing a lot of them, and not everybody, get infected along the way and get bitten, and you certainly see a lot more of what the cause and effect is. And I think they did a good job. I mean, if they're going to go with rabies as their model, the stages of rabies are also accurate, and they just happen super quickly.
Yeah, and that makes the bites actually... the bites make sense with rabies. It does.
It does, and they do have lots of animals
that are
roaming around.
It's true.
Through human bodily fluid.
Yeah, I didn't like that they changed it to rabies, mainly because there was a commentary going on that was missing. They were actually calling it in Rec a possession, a demonic possession through infection, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah, no, I still didn't like the movie, but there are parts of it that I liked.
He's just going to keep saying that. Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah. Right.
No, well, because
Sam, tell us why you.
I don't want people thinking that I'm backpedaling because there are parts that I liked.
Yeah. You can't like parts of a movie and still hate it at its core.
Yeah,
sure.
But yeah, there is a really great undertone to the whole movie because of that again worked there. I don't know why I didn't enjoy it, because I should have. Mm-hmm. But maybe I was in the wrong frame of mind, or maybe I am just done on found footage zombie films.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get into the cast of Quarantine, by the way. I ran the trailer just a little too quickly. Jennifer Carpenter, Steve Harris, Jay Hernandez, Jonathan Shaich, Columbus Shorts, and Andrew Fusella. Oh, and I got to mention Raid Serbeja.
Raid Serbeja.
Serbeja. No, Serbeja. Yeah. He played a character named Yuri, and has he ever played a character not named Yuri? Wasn't he Yuri in John Wick?
Yeah, he might have been Yuri in John Wick.
I didn't get a chance to check it, but I'm pretty sure.
In The Saint, I don't know if he was Yuri there either.
I don't know, but has he ever not been Yuri? So that's why I wanted to mention him. But yeah, most of these, unlike Rec, these are a lot of faces you will recognize from other films. I mean, certainly Jennifer Carpenter was Deborah Morgan on Dexter. Steve Harris was on Justified. That's a favorite show of Sam and I's. Jay Hernandez was most recently in Bright, Suicide Squad, and an older horror film called Hostel, which I hate.
Yeah.
Jonathan Shaich is on Legends of Tomorrow as Jonah Hex. A lot of TV guys. Columbus Short was in Whiteout and the Losers. Raid was in Downton Abbey. Greg German is Hades on Once Upon a Time. So these are all successful. Actually, there's another Once Upon a Time person, Diana Ramirez, who plays Sadie, is Cinderella on that show as well. And Bernard White was in Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions. So
lots of working actors.
And maybe that's part of the problem too, is you recognize them. So the reality, being that this is a kind of a found footage movie, it pops you out a little bit. There are certain things that do feel like movie making.
It was too slick. There are moments there where it felt like a cameraman moving his camera around. There's that one scene where he's killing the lady with the lens of his camera.
That was cool.
That was cool. I admit, like I said, there are parts I liked.
That was one of those things that didn't exist in the original film.
Exactly.
I think it was used to great effect.
Yeah, but for the most part, and it felt way more scripted.
Yeah,
right? Because and maybe it's because we understand English and we don't understand Spanish. There's a naturalness about Rec.
Yeah.
Versus that's very scripted feel of Quarantine.
Well, I'd like to say like the main audience that saw Quarantine probably saw Rec, but it didn't actually get an American release until after Quarantine came out. So I'm not so sure why Quarantine didn't quite hit with the audiences here, but I've watched both films very recently for this podcast, and they're very close. But there's just something about the original film that works for me more.
Part of the original too is there's stuff that is part of the making of the movie that you're not supposed to notice, but which gives you that sense of it being real. Like, as I was watching it, I was noticing parts where like the audio was kind of dropping out, like if your camera was a bit fucked up. There's little notes like that make it feel a lot more real.
Well, considering how close these movies are, it's amazing that their ratings are so far apart.
Well, think of Psycho, the remake of Psycho. It's done really close to the original. The ratings are real far apart.
And I think, and maybe, I don't know, like when Jennifer Carpenter, she gets far more panicked by the end, which is probably more natural in the end. I mean, the Manuela certainly had her moments in the film as well.
But she's pretty together.
She gets her shit together a lot faster. I mean, basically when Carpenter's character starts to really lose it, she never gets it back.
No, Manuela has more like a survival instinct where she'll lose it for a bit, but then she's like, no, gotta calm down.
But they both come off very charming at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, yeah. And actually, at the beginning of the movie, the fire station was one of my favorite parts of both, to be honest.
So you just want a documentary about firemen?
Not really, but I like the way they set up the dynamic between her and between our lead character and the fire.
I like the choice of firemen too, and there was a reason for it. I think the original concept was to follow police officers, but there seems to be, like in general society, a mistrust about police officers, which they kind of show within this movie as well. Both movies, really, but specifically the Spanish one. But they chose firefighters because they're more viewed as heroes, and especially in a post 9/11 world.
Well, and firefighters won't be the ones who
don't have the negative stigma.
They don't have the negative stigma, but also firefighters aren't the ones who are going to have guns if you get out of line. Firefighters just aren't that group of people.
They have axes and mallets and things.
They do. It's going to be rougher. They can do it, but it's not. You're not overtly thinking a fireman's going to shoot you.
Yeah, and I do like that your main fireman. I mean, the reporter is following a pair, and we lose one right away.
Yeah, Pablo does not last long.
Well, he lasts a while suffering because he does wind up turning, but that old lady that attacked them.
Yeah, and that's I like that part where he's gone for a while, like where they say he stays up there with her, and then it sets up this. So you think he's with us for a long time, and then
Boom.
Yeah, because
That
he's the
shocking
one that's
moment.
got a little more personality in both films. That was where he felt very movie Hollywood, the way he was really flirting with Carpenter's character.
It felt like they
yeah.
had to really give him that moment.
Yeah, and that was one of the things about the remake that irked me. There was one thing that I thought really
So
charming.
when he
though.
falls, you don't feel too bad for the guy. But I'm like, I did.
Yeah.
He was still fun.
I do feel bad, but the other time I'm sitting there going like, I still didn't feel that connected to him in a weird way.
No.
It's like they were trying so hard to make me feel for him. He looks like he's dead meat. You know,
He
when you
looks-
watch enough horror
with
movies?
the mustache, he looks a little on the skeevy porn star side.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they're trying too hard to make you feel creeped out by him.
Yeah,
or just want to know.
unnecessarily.
Yeah.
No, just make
It's,
him a regular
quarantine,
guy.
the porn parody.
Yeah,
Mm.
but what I did, there's one change that I really liked right in that fire hall scene, the fire hall scenes in the Spanish version. They're all playing basketball, which is a very American sport.
Sure.
Right? In the remake, they're playing handball, which is a very European sport.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's true. It's a very European sport.
Yeah.
But a handball court is a whole lot smaller than a basketball court.
Yes, but I just liked the juxtaposition of that. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're going to play an American sport. We're going to throw in a European sport for you because
It did feel like there was a lot of little back and forth like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny considering how close it was. The original filmmakers, Walm and Paco, hate the remake.
yeah.
They are not fans. And I'd love to find out why exactly.
Well, and there's also like a tiny note that I noticed that's a big difference, I think, between the two films. In the original, she's doing this puff piece while you're asleep for like, she has to stay up all night doing these puff pieces. And you can tell like when it starts to really go down, she's like, fuck, I'm a journalist now. Like you can see her really getting into that. With Jennifer Carpenter, I don't get that. I feel she's perfectly happy doing stupid
Yeah,
puff
you don't get
pieces.
that frustration in the job of nothing happening, whereas her, that's, her job is doing puff pieces, and she's very happy doing them.
But in the original, it makes more sense that she doggedly is like, film everything, we got to make sure we get everything.
Yeah, because this is her chance, right? This is her chance
Yeah,
to break
there's
out of being this overnight puff girl.
And maybe that's the difference between it. It's not like anything major, but it's this accumulation of little things that don't work as well.
These little notes that made it so beautiful. Like when I talk about the two Psycho movies, there's a magic that happens when it works. You kind of got the right ingredients together.
I mean, every now and again they threw in stuff that was new that I really dug. When Fletcher, when he finally succumbs to the rabies infection, and he's busted up from falling from several floors, and he's walking around on a clearly shattered leg, and it's just like, oh, that's making my leg hurt.
I
just
wanted to
looking
throw
at
up.
that.
It was really disgusting.
I did go fucking cool, out loud when I saw that.
So every now and again they kind of make up for some of those.
But did the movie need it?
Did it need it? No. Did it feel any different or like it?
Did it make the movie better?
It does feel like, well, we got to give you some of the cooler Hollywood horror stuff.
Yeah.
And
it felt like it's really cool, but let's do this because we can.
There's more graphic violence.
And
in
I
this
still
movie.
find the original one more effective because you are just seeing less. It's more about the panic of the people and being locked in this apartment building. These firemen have been called for
somebody's trapped in their
somebody's
room.
trapped in their room screaming.
Yeah.
So they're just a simple rescue and possible medical.
Yeah.
And as things turn bad and she attacks the one police officer, they need to get him out for medical, and then when they come back downstairs the whole place has been quarantined. Like how they were on that really fast, but it was because of a dog of the little girl that had gone to the vet, and then the dog had infected the other animals, and it all spread really quickly, and they tracked it back through the collar back to
The microchip,
yeah.
And again, I don't know why I didn't like this movie because I love that bit with the dog.
Yeah.
Right. Like because I saw a little girl, I'm like, oh shit, she's infected.
Yeah.
I knew she was as soon as I saw her. Right.
There's some skeevy stuff in the like they are clearing it off and trying to contain something that's very volatile infection.
Yeah.
Where the Americans, they're doing it in a very dark way. They've already told the press they've gotten everybody out. They have no intention of saving anybody.
Yeah.
No,
See,
they're doing a slash and burn.
That I didn't like.
See,
and that works
I didn't
against
mind
the
that.
film.
I kind of appreciate
makes
that
sense,
because
though.
to me, horror is about like the horrific things people will do.
Yeah, and the original film Wreck really lays that horror on the characters' reactions and shoulders, whereas you get to see that manifest a little differently through the exterior actions of what's going on. They actually take shots at people trying to escape.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know how you keep it secret that everybody's out, so why are you shooting into an empty building? How do you explain that one to the press?
Yes, yeah.
So, that one doesn't make sense. Plot hole.
Well, at that point,
one,
at that point, you can lie. If nobody sees it or has footage because they've kept people far enough away, be like, no, there's a couple of rabid animals and all the humans are out. We just shot at a dog so it wouldn't jump out. Mm-hmm. You can hide it pretty easily.
That's true. I mean, and they did go out of their way to show more animals within the building of how it's spreading the infection, but that was when they decided rabies, so they had the rats and dogs and things.
Yeah,
and that's why instead of it's an intern, it's a vet who lives in the building.
Yeah,
yeah, but yeah, it took it from a really great level of tension to an over the top level that pulls you out to a certain extent. It's like there's no sense of hope. Right, at least with the original, you do get that sense of hope that at least somebody's going to get out.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right? Like there's, and you don't have that when every single thing in the building.
Then you need to watch Rec 2, apparently.
Yeah, I do apparently need to because they keep carrying on. So I'm guessing. Yeah, I don't think I've seen Rec 2, but I'm guessing whatever pulls her at the end of that movie into the dark, that very effective visual, and that works for both movies.
Yeah, it does.
I'm guessing whatever pulls her out is not that creature that was running around in the dark in that room.
Because I saw the trailer, she shows up in the 2 trailer, and in 4, she's a major part of that movie. Just so.
Yeah.
See, and even though I did like this movie, now I want to watch at least the second one. Maybe it will give me a new appreciation for the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the second one, I guess, is a SWAT team going in, right?
I don't recall. Like I said, I thought I'd seen it, but the more I think about it, I don't think I have.
It's weird. We talk about these things where, like, if you name it too much, it sort of loses a lot of the power, and the rabies thing is very clear. But if it could have been, if you want to stick with a virus, that's fine.
I don't think
but make it an unnamed virus,
yeah, and
right?
I don't think
Which they did. Right?
Yeah, and I don't think it's the why is as important as the result. And naming it just, I don't know, demystifies it.
Yeah,
and just this idea of
rationalizes it in a really
wrong
way.
But calling it possession, which is a ridiculous term, but it is a more logical panic thing. That it's but in a culture like Spain that's very Catholic, I could see why they would say something like that. But in that penthouse, there's all this crazy stuff on the walls of articles and things. So
and
this is
Christian iconography,
mixed with the scientific equipment.
Yeah.
So again, they're making that statement of possession through infection. It's a manufactured symptom of what would be typically of demonic possession. So I would love to see how that progresses, that idea progresses throughout the series, or if they do wind up giving it a name of what kind of virus it is, or did they take the blood of somebody who's infected and then start infecting other things with it?
I was always curious if it wasn't like somebody looking up to the person who was looking to really verify anything was a possession. And finding out something that's presenting as a possession is a virus that's infecting somebody.
Well, it's an interesting thought of, somebody being possessed and then their blood being used in a more scientific application. It's an odd thought, but an interesting one. I'm wondering if the sequels did progress with that.
Mm-hmm. Who knows?
So I don't know. I might be watching more of these.
I might not. We'll see.
You seem less likely, but
yeah. But you never know. Like I said, now I kind of want some answers for at least for the end of the movie, because
I kind of want to know what the final fate of Angela is.
Yeah, because I did like her character. I said, for whatever reason, there's all these parts I liked, but the whole just didn't work for me as well as I thought it should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit of expansion in theory should have worked better, but with the American stuff, especially with the character stuff, it was annoying.
It felt like filler.
Yeah, like, oh, here's the drunk guy. So when he dies, you don't feel too bad for him when he's getting eaten by a dog in an elevator. So
it's like,
yeah, and
here's our drunk asshole.
You get this something that's really simple and effective and intelligent, and then you overthink it, and it just makes it dumb. And it's just little bits that build and build and build, and you just get really frustrated by the end of all these little things that are annoying.
Well, there's an extra, 16 minutes, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, they're not very much different. The original film is 78-minute running time, really short.
Nice and concise.
Nice and concise, and it's 89 minutes.
So 11 minutes.
Yeah, it's just an extra 11 minutes, but it sure makes a difference.
Because, like, there's the guy, I guess he's a composer, and his student lives with him, but he
Which
has
is icky.
Yeah, icky.
Which he has, but he also has a fuck ton of Vicodin. Like,
Yeah, so
why?
he's
Why
a
do I
drug
need to know
addict
this?
he's an opera teacher who lives with
a
his
student. His much younger female student.
Yeah, and says it's his roommate, but you can tell they're a little more than roommates.
It's gross.
Way creepy, wicked, icky.
Yeah. The Asians in the original film, I thought, got used a little bit better with the sick father.
Yes.
That was trapped in the room that couldn't come down to the main level. They replicated that with an African family.
So I think it's Somalis or something.
Somali, yeah. And I don't think that was used to great effect. And they still make that slight racist note of somebody else in there. Because they're arguing of where the infection, it's like, well, they're different, so it must have come from them.
Yeah. And I liked that moment.
Yeah, and
I didn't enjoy it. It made me feel awful.
It should, though.
But
it should, because then they point to the sick little girl, and it's like, no, she just has bronchitis. Yeah.
But I like the fact that somebody says that, hey, if we're pointing fingers at sick people, who's holding the sick kids? Sorry. But I mean, I felt it was better served in the remake where they just kind of made them not understand English and basically mute.
Yeah.
At least in the Spanish version, they were Chinese but spoke Spanish.
Yeah, with an accent. I loved it.
Oh, it was great.
And
it's wonderful to
they
hear.
speak both Chinese and Spanish.
Yeah.
So
As you
once you
would.
relegate them to just not talking, it's like, well, what are you doing here? Like, yeah, there should be other cultures
You're just
living in the
another body.
building.
Yeah.
But, like, why are you going out of your way to give all these other people character, but not them?
Yeah.
You're giving the other culture less time.
Yeah, it's like you wanted to hit that racist note, and now you're making it super racist for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
One thing in the remake I like that they did, and I think they did it better than they did in the original, is they actually went and started knocking on doors to get people to come down to the lobby.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I never really understood why they were all in the lobby to begin with.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe...
felt contrived. It was the only thing in that whole movie that felt contrived was that.
I mean, whoever made the call to 911 in the first place, that makes sense.
Yes.
A couple of people, but not like the entire building's worth of people.
No, because they don't know anything.
Level.
No.
No.
They don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
That does make a little more sense.
Yeah, so it's one of the few things I think the remake did do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the argument with like the guy who's like, we'll take you downstairs if we have to, but finding somebody else they have to bring downstairs who's very sick.
Like I said, one of the very, very few things that I like more than the original.
Well, let's give a listen to the Quarantine trailer, which might start to coalesce this a little bit better, especially if you didn't get the Spanish one. We'll be right back.
Ready? Okay. Hi, I'm Angela Vidal. We're in Los Angeles, traveling along with the fire department.
Is that so bad?
These are the men you'll be shadowing tonight. Wherever they go, you go too.
Police are here. It might be a little more serious than we thought.
A woman was screaming bloody murder back there.
Fire department's about to begin the rescue process. Police say that she lives alone. She's not very social.
Okay. We're gonna get you some medical help, okay?
Come on. Tape everything. You hear me? Tape everything.
Sit down. We have an officer down. I need an ambulance immediately.
Do not try to leave the building. This will all be over shortly.
Why are they isolating
I don't know more than you do right now, okay?
We were told that tenants inside need medical aid. Chief.
Everyone's been evacuated. Everyone's completely safe.
Why would he say that?
I can't get through to my husband and my daughter.
We gotta get out of here.
We're filming this! People are gonna see what you're doing, guys!
We go out.
They're not gonna let us out of here alive, are they?
No matter what happens, just keep moving.
My daughter has a fever.
I think I know what this is.
We need to talk to her.
Whose apartment is this? Oh my God.
bad this thing is. The man who lives here.
Let me get out of here!
I'm getting it! I'm fixing it! Come on!
Didn't that sound spooky?
Mm-hmm. Listening to the trailer reminded me of something that really got to me in both movies. I think you both know my feelings about children in horror movies, and there's some very freaky, scary, feral children in both of these movies.
They look almost like exactly like the same kid.
Yeah, boy, they go out of their way in this remake to make a lot of the characters look similar.
They do.
At least the main ones. I mean, the firemen don't, but Angela certainly does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And down to the kind of the waft of hair that was over her eye.
Yeah, they tried very hard for a note-for-note remake tailored to an American audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right. A lot of it was, in Hollywood, we can do these special effects so much better, and also we need to give them more gore because that's what an American audience wants.
Yeah.
I don't think that is what an American audience want. People want to be scared. They don't need gore to be scared.
And, you know,
your brain can come up with something much better.
By 2008, I think there might have been already a fatigue with the found footage films. I mean, I guess it kind of got revived again with Paranormal Activity, but people were kind of done with them already at that point.
Well, Paranormal Activity, that's not huge on gore throughout it, is it?
No, not at all.
It's very little gore, actually.
The success of that is more what you don't see and just those little subtle things that build into a lot of tension.
Yeah.
I got to say, the original Wreck is really good at building tension, and they do it quickly.
Oh.
Yeah. You can't see the hand gesture. I still don't understand why I don't like this movie. I don't. But
On paper, it sounds great. The more we talk about it, it sounds great. Can I watch that movie? Because it wasn't great.
This is kind of like you've matched with somebody on a dating site. You have so much in common. Everything should work, and then you meet them and nothing.
Yep. I've never actually had that experience in real life, but yeah, that's a pretty good analogy, I would think. Yeah, I was excited to do this one because even when I realized it was found footage, I'm like, I'm sure I'll like it because it's something different, and it is different. Right? For a found footage / zombie film, I think it was the first time that somebody done something like that. Right? And that's usually what makes found footage work for me is when they do something new with it.
Ironically, there were already 2 more coming zombie found footage movies that were happening at the same time. There was the George Romero's, I think it was Diary of the Dead. Mm-hmm. Oh, there was another one that it's escaping me, but
zombies were
that
coming
didn't
out
help.
hard
And that was maybe another part. Zombies, it was just like they were everywhere in 2008.
Ooh, speaking of here's another note difference that might have made the difference between the American and the Spanish one. I noticed throughout the Spanish one, if people were saying like "I'm bitten," their reaction was like "I'm bitten, get away from me." That is that's not an American response.
No. Somebody said
save yourself is something else.
Yeah,
that they
people
would do.
were lying about being bitten because you know what was coming next. They're going to lock you in a room or leave you behind or beat you with a camera.
Yeah, but in Spain, the guy locked himself away and threw away the key because he's like, I've been bitten. Get out of here.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really hate to hack on the American mentality because a lot of our listeners are American, and most Americans are great. But there's a thing in American filmmaking that
American horror, especially.
Well, it's not just American horror. There's a lot of things where they misread their demographic. Mm-hmm. They assume that their audience is not intelligent. Right? And that's unfortunate because they're contributing to the dumbing down of America.
Yeah, I mean, they're simplifying by making these residents of this building caricatures. And it's really insulting. Yeah. Whereas you actually admire the nobility of the actions of the characters in the building where they are trying to work together in this terrible situation as best they can. And sometimes it doesn't work out so well. A lot of the time, most of the time, it doesn't work out so well. But at least it's with good intention.
There, yeah.
And they do rein themselves in when they do start acting irrationally. I mean, the scene with the cop in both films when he pulls the gun on everybody. Yeah. But for some reason, it feels way different in the American one.
Yeah.
Even though it's the same scene.
I think sometimes also we're watching with an undertone as well at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got the people outside with guns and the people inside with guns. In the Spanish one, I didn't have a feeling there were people outside with guns as well.
No.
Like, it just seems a lot of guns.
Yeah. Well, and I know part of the challenge for me is that usually when we do a remake episode like this, I'll watch one, take a day off, and then watch the next one. But I watched these two evenings in a row. So Quarantine was really, really fresh in my... Or Rec was really, really fresh in my head.
It doesn't make a difference. I split them up over... I think there were 2 days between my viewings, and it still felt like I had just watched Rec.
Yeah.
So
it's because it is so note for note for the most part.
So close. Like you almost feel relief when you're watching them this close together when something different happens in the American ones.
Yeah, you can notice
and
it.
You hit a gory moment and you're like, yeah. And then you just hit one of those like, why'd you do that with the cartoon drunk guy?
Yeah.
Well, it's like what you were saying, like the dumbing down in the movies. What's funny is there's a lot of American television that is incredibly intelligent that's coming out now and is doing well. So why isn't
most of
anybody
the actors
noticing that?
in that movie were from those type of shows.
Yes, it's true.
So it's mind-boggling.
I think that television producers are starting to get it. They are finally starting to get it. We don't need more Bachelors, Survivors, any of those other shows that show people at their worst. Right? We need more shows that show people at their best. Right? But the film industry still isn't getting that.
Yeah, and maybe there's a big difference in it. It's so subtle, but it does feel like the Spanish movie is people are trying to be their best, at their best, in a bad situation, and it's just panic and stupidity for the most part in the remake.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of panic in
the original.
And there is, absolutely, because, I mean, panic in that kind of situation is natural. Of course you're going to be scared.
Yeah.
You're trapped inside with something. They've sealed this building. They don't seal up buildings for no reason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they won't tell you what the fuck it is.
I mean, even before the infection really becomes publicly known within the building residents, there's already something scary happening because you're being shut into your building.
Yeah.
And you don't know why, and they're not telling you why.
And you've got two people dying.
That's why I didn't like the movie. You just hit why I didn't like the movie. Everybody's too calm for the up to the point where the fireman and the cop turn. They're too not organized, but they're too functional.
They shouldn't be panic right away, but there should be
a lot more questions and
a lot of questioning, a lot of like nervousness and worry.
That was what was missing when that part of the movie didn't set me up quite right for the last half of the movie. The last third of the movie is I just didn't feel that the tension that I should have felt there.
You know, if anything, I mean, the one guy who wanted to go back to his room in quarantine against orders was just the drunk guy who didn't give a fuck. But it feels more natural to me that you'd want to lock yourself in your own space because you're comfortable there.
Yes,
and it's just this feeling of comfort when you're all crowded in a smaller space. Then that's when those emotions of worry and fear and
we didn't
panic
get that.
Start rising, and they just
it was very flat there.
Yeah, and I think both films fail in that regard.
Although,
and I think that was all I didn't like about it, and I just took it didn't quite give me what I needed from the movie.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. The reason I sort of kind of got on board with it, but this might have just been me putting my own tone on the movie, was the fact that the people in this building knew each other. Like they knew kind of where everybody lived. They knew what was going on in the building. Community. It was a small community in the building. So like when you are surrounded by people you're familiar with, that panic isn't going to rise as quickly. Whereas in the building in the US, it's very much like, buildings we live in over here. We don't really know who our neighbors are. These are strange people that we aren't really comfortable with. So we're going to panic right away.
Well, that just makes my point, because even if they didn't panic but there still should have been some tension, and if they're a community like that, they would have asked to go up to their rooms and get blankets and pillows, make themselves comfortable instead of sitting in a lobby. Right?
Yeah, they should have done that.
There should have been more of that community. If it's going to be a community, there should have been something to help them wait it out.
Right.
But instead, everybody, the camera crew and all of the people of authority, fuck off to that other room with the injured people. And leave these citizens to fend for themselves without really addressing anything with them.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I think was missing for me.
Okay. I get that.
Because they are still important to the movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could see it. Like, especially like the mom with the kid, she'd probably want to bring a blanket. She's got a fever.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't address what would normally happen in a situation like that.
Yeah, although the mom scene does feel like a little more maternal in the original. And
Oh, absolutely.
There's something about that scene that just so doesn't work in the remake.
Yeah.
It's like, here's your kid, love her. I don't want to.
Yeah.
She smells like she peed herself.
The kid herself was a half decent actress, but the scene where Angela is interviewing the kid and kind of brushing off mom, I'll interview you later, just please be quiet while I talk to the kid. At least she's trying to get some details out of her in the Spanish film.
Yeah.
The scene when they replicated in the American one went nowhere.
Yeah.
She shushes the mom and just... It's a little cutesy moment that goes nowhere. There's no real details. I think she pulls the bit with Max. It's so on the nose, like, let's not have an interaction with this kid. It's like, yeah, my dog Max went to the vet.
Yeah.
That was it, because it's going to come up later. But that's it.
Yeah.
Like, that scene is so tight and concise that it loses all of its emotional impact.
Yeah, you're right. And that's... One of the things I was trying to mention earlier, and I kind of forgot, was what I did like was the fact that I was expecting the little girl to be patient zero.
Yeah.
Right? But it turns out she's not.
It's her dog.
It's her dog, and I liked that. Because it was a little bit of a misdirect.
And I don't think that's true either. I think the dog was bitten by something in the building.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But in context of
I think patient zero is that thing in the ceiling.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in the penthouse. Yeah, that's patient zero. But,
which was like a young emaciated girl, which I thought was really fascinating in the original.
Yes. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I like is you think, oh, there's the source, and then oh, there's the source. Right? They keep telling you more of the story. Like I said, so it was so much better done.
Every time they get to but in both movies, when they got to the penthouse, I'm like, ugh, that place looks gross.
Yeah, and it was supposed to.
Every time I'm like, ew, don't touch the walls, don't touch anything.
Oh yeah, no kidding. And every time, especially Carpenter's version of the character, every time she looked at anything, it was just freaking her out even more.
Yeah.
Well, why in the American version did that tape recorder just do nothing and lead nowhere?
No, well, you know what? I think in their own way they were trying to, and I just sounded like a recording they were too stupid to play at speed, but
that's what I thought it was.
I think they were trying to make it sound like ritualistic chanting to get back to that kind of possession note, and I bet you if we got to freeze on those articles just a little longer, they might have revealed more of that.
Well, it said Doomsday Cult in the one of the articles.
So I think they were trying to hit that, but because they didn't say it earlier, it loses all effect because you didn't
set it up.
You didn't get to set that set up early.
They didn't really set it up in the original either. Like, she's just playing the tape, and that's actually giving us more information. I was saying in the original, it wasn't actually set up as well. Like, it's that's where we get this information where it's possession.
In the original, they do talk about possession by infection.
Yes,
right?
They do before they get to that penthouse suite.
So
they're forced up to that penthouse suite. They were originally trying to get into the basement.
Yes, right. So it does. They do set that up in the original. Like I said, if it weren't for that flatness in the middle, I think I would really like this movie.
Where did they put the possession bit? I missed that.
I'm trying to think of where.
It's when the CDC.
The CDC says, yeah,
when he's explaining what's going on.
He said we found a dog. I remember that bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's
and they don't say possession by infection.
No, that's a term I'd coined.
Yeah, it's like the dog became possessed.
Yeah, the symptoms are like a possession.
Okay, that's what I didn't even take it as that. I just thought it was like a really rabid dog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where the Americans version took it and ran with that idea. I mean, well, what does this sound like? It sounds like rabies. Okay, like logically, I see why they did it, and because of the proliferation of zombie stuff, I could see why they would want to make it more of an infection movie rather than a zombie movie, even though it's a zombie movie.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Another thing I know is another difference. Sorry. In the original, you don't see Pablo. I don't remember seeing Pablo at all. You see his feet.
Oh no, yeah, you don't
see his hands.
Yeah, you never
see Pablo.
No, you only hear Pablo. You never see a reflection of Pablo or him getting in front of the lens. They do give what was his name, Scott, in this one?
Mhm.
Yeah, Scott as the cameraman in quarantine. You get moments where he's cleaning the lens or setting up the camera, or it's dropped.
She's handing the camera to him with it very focused on him.
There's enough moments where you see who the cameraman actually is, but it's not important.
No, see, that's what I liked about it. You don't see Pablo because essentially we're seeing what Pablo's seeing. We kind of are Pablo.
Yeah, I think that adds something to the original that they took away in the remake.
Yeah, because you already are attached to Pablo without ever knowing what he looks like. It's not important.
No.
Because he is kind of the cooler head.
And he's doing like little heroic things at the end. I've never seen this character, but then like, go Pablo.
Yeah, and one of my biggest pieces about quarantine is it's almost too slick.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, found footage films typically don't look as clean as this did. And whenever they do the shaky camera work, it just looks like shitty camera work.
Yeah,
It doesn't really look
and
like
it
found
shouldn't
footage.
look. It should get shakier as you go because this is technically a professional cameraman.
Yeah.
So as his tension rises, the shakiness of the camera
And it does in
and
the
the
original.
panic, and it does build subtly, and it helps build that tension. I don't think they quite achieve that as well in the remake.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he's attached to that camera because, like, he's a professional cameraman. That camera comes with me. It goes everywhere.
Mhm.
But at the end, it sort of also becomes something which they can use. Like, use the light, use the night vision.
Mhm.
It becomes a tool near the end.
Yeah, in both cases, for sure. They heavily relying on that camera in many situations, especially when the lights go out. They use the camera light, and when that goes, they switch to the night vision.
Is how many batteries does he have? Because
Oh, that's a good question.
those camera batteries don't last that long, especially when you're using the lights.
Well, it depends on how new the batteries are and how freshly charged. But let's assume he had some spares in the camera bag, because you're not going to see that if the camera's on. So I'm assuming he switched batteries along the way on those few times when the camera cuts off.
Or they were charging while they're at the station.
Yeah, he must. I'm just guessing that he had to have a fair number of them.
Yeah, they get there fairly late at night to begin with, so everything happens fairly quickly. At one point, I think she said it was about 1:30 when things are really escalating. So it was probably just after midnight when the call came in the first place.
That's true,
because the firemen were sleeping when the call came in.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you talk about like getting up, and I don't know. That's kind of an amazing thing. I know it's an alarm, and it would probably get you going, but it's hard to get up.
Well, I mean,
they're trained to get up.
It's true. It's hard to get up and be alert. but
There's
you
a
just have to
shift
learn.
too, so I'm sure some are sleeping while other ones are up and ready to go.
Yeah, see, and that brings me back to one of the absolutely extraneous, useless scenes in this, or things that they added to this movie, is the scene, the race scene where they race to get into the gear.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a padding piece. Yeah.
It's just filler.
But it does make sense if you're making a cutesy puff piece for.
True.
But they weren't filming that. It was just a race.
Oh, well, doing something to.
Yeah, well, I
pass
mean, they
the
were
time.
filming it obviously, but
They were recording everything, but it's just something to pass the time that they might have edited into their final edit. I mean, I'd go for all sorts of cutaway stuff if I was
for B-roll and stuff.
shooting
And
something
they talk
like
about
that,
how they want to get lots of B-roll,
Yeah.
but they did it to far more effect in the original. Right?
Mhm.
They talked about how the boots are attached to the pants to make it all, and I liked that. It actually informed me of something I didn't know.
Well, everything feels a little bit more professional about the piece in the original.
Yeah.
Everything in the remake, it just feels cutesy and fun. Oh, this guy's flirting with her on camera, and they're having little challenges and things like that.
But it doesn't.
Oh yeah,
add
there
anything.
isn't anything. Yeah, and
It
there's
doesn't
none of
achieve
that in the original. She's there to do a piece. That's just what's happening.
Yeah, it's professional, and the firemen are being professional about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just feels more natural in that regard, because that's what they would do.
I love the communication between her and Pablo. Like, if it gets boring or shady, just feel free to cut.
Yeah, they wouldn't be dragging her through the men's locker room.
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
And
That was the
nor-
dumbest scene.
And nor would you be shooting it. What would be the point of it? You wouldn't use any of it. So
Well, and she's sitting there going, we can't use any of this. Then turn off the fucking camera.
yeah.
You're wasting battery.
Yep.
I mean, digital takes no tape, assuming they were shooting digital and not on tape. There's an endless supply of space, so assuming a big camera like that.
Like,
so.
you would eliminate that and
That's
keep
why
the Dalmatian.
Found footage doesn't work so well anymore, because the quality of picture you get from even an iPhone now is still better than the stuff we see in the original found footage films, unless there's a reason for it, like the Paranormal Activity, where they're using the night vision security cameras. You're going to get poor picture quality.
Security cameras don't pick up a lot. Like, they're not great.
The really good ones are high definition, high quality.
Yeah, this is a TV camera he's using, so the images should be really full spectrum. The lighting should be excellent.
Yeah.
Well, at least what's available lighting within the building itself, which feels more natural in the original because it's not a set. It's a real working building.
Yeah.
They've shot it on an actual location. There were no sets on that. They may address the scene, but those were all real locations where everything in the remake was a set. And where you have much more control over where that lighting's going to be. But in the end, it starts making it feel like a set.
Yeah.
If you have those lights perfectly planted, so
it makes
with
it
that
feel
eye light
flat.
and the hair light. And well, I mean, it's all stuff that is, the intention is not to make it flat. It's actually supposed to be the opposite.
Yeah.
But because those lighting techniques are so known to us, even subconsciously, we're picking up on the fact that it's lit like a feature film,
it's like
rather
don't
than
look behind the curtain kind of thing.
Yeah, rather than reality.
You're sitting there going, if I worked in place that well lit, I would go insane.
I do agree with the fact that it didn't have a musical score.
Yeah.
And it didn't need, neither film needs it.
No.
And it would have probably felt less natural if it did.
Oh, it completely would have taken away from both films. Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question that there should be nothing but the normal ambient noises. I mean,
screaming
you could have at some point you could maybe have a radio on, especially at the fire hall where somebody's listening to music or watching TV. But there should be no music to set mood.
Yeah, because then if you want to make it feel really fake, that's a good way to do it.
Yep.
And they're the mediocre remake score of 50, was it 59, 6 out of 10. Yeah, that would have probably dropped to a nice solid 4.
Yeah. Oh God, it would have been terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could do like a spoof of it where you have somebody who's got the footage, who's trying to edit together her piece while you were asleep, do, and just show her doing different things. Like, here she is hang gliding and parachuting.
They would have been way better served in the remake, even if they didn't change any of that script. I bet you people would have liked it a little bit better if they had no idea who these people were.
Yeah.
Like, there were too many recognizable faces where you stop believing in the actor, believing in the actual character.
It takes away that sense of reality.
Yeah, and the scripting on those characters wasn't great either. But, I mean, that's part of the effectiveness of Rack is, and maybe they would have been more familiar with them in Spain, but based on what I read, they were all unknowns, and I would have felt the same way. As soon as I started recognizing people, I stopped thinking of them as real people.
It's a movie. It's just a movie.
And I'm sorry, Carpenter was too well known from Dexter at the time.
Even
it was
with
a huge show at that time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's why I was just. Deborah Morgan's in a bad situation. That's kept going through my head.
Yeah. And I mean, by hiring an actual television personality to play a television personality,
that was
it just
great.
sort of sets it up so well that
then it just adds to the reality at that point because
I do know her. She's from TV.
Yeah, she was doing those kind of pieces.
Yeah.
And I really liked it at the beginning where they're showing the bits where she's starting to do it and then screws up. She's like, okay, let's do it again, because that made it feel very real. That this is what's going to happen. They just got to keep making it till she gets the introduction right.
And the foibles just feel like, I don't know, they do the same thing again in the remake, but it doesn't feel the same. Like the tone, it just feels like everybody's kind of going through the motions.
Yeah. Well, the cameraman comes out specifically to move a bit of hair off her face, and I'm like, this is fucking extraneous.
That was a nod to the original.
Yeah.
Because
it is, but
wanted to change sides because of the flip of hair in her face. So.
Yeah.
It just seemed extraneous.
They handled the little scene, and I feel like when he brushes it over her ear, instead of her flipping just the angle of the interview, it felt like a bit of a flirty moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
it did, but
that
it should never
have. And never wound up being picked up on again. It was like a little thread that they could have pulled on and never did.
Yeah, but it also felt like, to me, it's like going, oh, see, here's who we cast for the cameraman. Do you see the guy who's playing the cameraman? Good. Have you seen the guy who plays the cameraman? Okay, good. Now I can go back behind the camera.
Yeah, it's a very much an excuse to get so you can show him on camera.
It is, but at the same time, if you've ever sort of worked like a camera set like that, not like film, because you have makeup and stuff like that, right? But if you do TV, right, right? You have a cameraman and you have your on-air personality. Your camera person does do stuff like that for you.
I've shot documentaries, and you're working with a really small crew, and if cameras,
because they're your eyes
catching something. Yeah, absolutely. And if I would give my cameraman shit in a heartbeat if they didn't catch it. Yeah. So, because they're the ones that are going to see the final picture before anybody else does.
So when someone's hair is out of place, they move it. They don't ask her to move it.
Initially,
it depends on your relationship.
Yeah, it depends on how comfortable your crew is with each other.
Yeah, but it is something that they would do. It just doesn't feel natural in this context.
Yeah, that's it. It felt so forced, so super forced.
And I mean, like I said, it was originally a nod clearly a nod to the scene in the
just to try to do something a little different with the scene. But like I said, I think it's just this slow building of annoying little bits that don't work, and just the flatness of the performances. Like everything doesn't quite feel natural in this film in the quarantine.
Yeah, I think that largely. I think the biggest one that you've already mentioned is the fact that they cast recognizable.
Yeah, that's their biggest fault with that movie. But you can't put recognizable names in found footage.
No, because it just doesn't work.
If this was a scripted horror movie, this would be fine.
Yeah.
Right. If they had remade Rec and fixed the one thing that ruined it for me, then I would have really liked the remake.
Yeah, just change the reactions of people
during that waiting period, because I don't know if you've ever.
Granted, I mean the fireman falls from a tremendous height while this whole locked-in thing's happening. That's going to up your scare factor a whole hell of a lot really quickly. And I think that's why they did that, is because they're not scared enough.
That's exactly it. But I don't know if you've ever... I mean, if you've ever been waiting for test results for a medical condition, or you're waiting on a phone call about a loan, that uneasiness, and that was missing for me. Right? If they had fixed that and kept the rest the way it was... this would have been a home run for me.
Yeah, I guess sometimes it's just those small little things. If you don't get that small emotional thing that you'll just pick up on, even subconsciously, it'll just pop you right out.
Yeah, and I never reconnected back with it, even though I acknowledge how good some of this movie is.
Yeah, and that shows just the difficulty of trying to script something ridiculous as reality and still try to sell it as reality. And sometimes the easiest bits of human nature are the hardest parts to put into a movie.
They are, yes. They are. And I mean, maybe I'm being overly critical, but now we've talked about it, like I said, there's lots of it that I do like. Well, I just didn't find the whole satisfying.
It's somewhat weird, too, because we have in our heads an idea of how during an emergency we might act and how confrontational we might be. You could have people who would just kind of shut down and get on with it, or there's people who would panic too much.
And we didn't see any of that, right? We didn't get any of that largely because you don't see them for the most part, because the camera crews off with the cop and the fireman.
They do try a little bit. I mean, remember that one girl, and they all escape into the room. Are you bit? Are you bit? Are you bit? And she's like, shakes her head no, and she's kind of biting her own fingers, like in this nervousness, and keeping her head down.
The quote unquote roommate.
The roommate, yes, the quote unquote roommate, Sadie. And she's kind of rocking back and forth, hiding it like this. I think that was one of those moments where they were at least on the right track. She's like, I was bitten, and I'm not going to tell you people.
Yeah, but you needed that stuff like that before.
But the way they finally pay off that scene where she's actually turning and she's actually really done injury to herself before, it looks like it just she's biting her nails, and then she's just, her whole hands just bleeding. She'd never stop gnawing on the damn thing.
But if you're going to give them like a huge personality, I want that empathetic one who's like, I've been bit, get away from me, or they'll just try and take off.
Yeah.
And try to get away so that they don't hurt anybody.
Well, I mean, it's going to be different for every person. Like, you don't want to be ostracized. Everybody's already pointing fingers early on in the movie. So, you got that one guy who locks himself away, run away, but that's not going to be everybody's reaction. Not everybody's noble. They just want to live. Yeah. But if I don't say anything, maybe they won't kill me.
It's just that nobody does. Well, I think that's the thing. Like in the Spanish movie, it's an infection, and the first concept isn't we're just going to kill anybody who's bit. But in every North American zombie movie, as soon as somebody's bit, they just kill him.
Yeah, well,
so it's that societal thing. I think that's why they couldn't do that.
They needed that moment of having somebody to go on the other side willingly, just to show that there are some noble people. I mean, I think that scene with her is great because everybody's going to react a little differently. I mean, that mom tries to suppress the kid's sickness as much as possible. I mean, mainly through her own refusal to believe in anything other than it's just a cold or a flu or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I think it was tonsillitis in the original film and bronchitis in the remake.
Yeah.
So, just this refusal to accept that it's anything but that.
And see, the mom
that was one of the best examples of human nature in this that I saw in both movies is her
and maternal instinct.
That maternal instinct and that adamant refusal to believe that it's not possible that her child is infected. But I just wanted to see more of sort of the way a group would react, right? They would want food, they would want water, they would want to be comfortable while they're waiting for whatever bad news is they're going to get.
Early on,
and that's really all I was missing.
Yeah, I think the only time we see anybody go to a room is to go get some medical supplies.
Yeah, and you can have that altruistic moment I desperately want where people are like, okay, so I've got some food here. Where, like, somebody who's like, I've got some canned stuff, or this guy's like, I've got extra blankets.
Yeah, just that quick. You don't even need to give it much time. It's a quick passing of information between the residents.
Yeah, this guy's bleeding. I have towels.
As they go gather of like a small group. Where are your apartments? Where's your stuff?
Yeah, and the anxiety of waiting. You know that there's something wrong in your building.
Yeah.
You are going to be anxious. Every single person. Now, how that manifests for different people, obviously, as we both mentioned.
I mean,
it manifests differently. But we didn't get any of that.
Now, your authority figures of the remaining firemen and police officer are going to want to keep any too much extraneous people, so you want that small group to gather that stuff for you because you know there's still somebody roaming around there and what's already happened. I mean, you've already lost
a trained police officer.
You've seen an old lady already kill somebody with that girl that she chases mid-film there.
Yeah. But it could have worked really well. Like I said, one of the things that they did well in the remake was gather people out of their apartments instead of having them all gathered at the beginning. So you just add a little bit. You say, grab yourself some blankets, some food, some water.
You do that early on.
Please come downstairs.
Yeah.
Right? I want everybody gathered together.
Comfortable.
That fills that hole, right? And then you have time to build that anxious tension that everybody gets when they're waiting for what could be bad news.
Mm-hmm. Because I feel really bad for the husband that got trapped on the other side of the building.
Oh, my God.
He lost his wife and child.
Yeah.
And his dog.
Oh, my God.
He's had a bad day. I forgot to say, if I'm stuck in like some sort of apocalyptic thing, the firefighter Manu, I kind of want him on my side because the stuff he just creates a swath. The zombies.
He was awesome.
He's unstoppable. He breaks a guy's neck, just snaps it.
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, okay.
He's a badass.
But then at the very end, when they come out and they show his face looking up, and I'm like, no.
Yeah,
and that was a really effective moment because you wanted him to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, you want Angela and Pablo to get out as well, but you have faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have faith that, especially considering he's like a wrecking ball.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, those guys are trained to remain calm in tense situations,
and he takes care of people too. During this whole thing.
When Scott beats that one zombie with his camera, I did like them holding on to it. The fact that he's kind of freaking out about what he just did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, there's this moment of, like, I just killed somebody with my camera. Can we just have a fucking moment?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was... that scene was one of the few really great adds to the...
Yeah.
They replaced that. They replaced the scene where the little girl touches the camera with the finger.
Yeah.
To add this more sort of graphic, gory scene. But it worked.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the few things it did.
Yeah. I mean, every now and again they do hit a home run with the addition, or an icky bit.
Yeah. And I also want to live in either like the apartment building. It's kind of a cool looking apartment building when you come up the stairs.
It's a cool apartment building, but if that shit's going on, I don't want to live there.
No, I want to live there with its uninfected.
Yeah, less super rabies. Yeah,
less super rabies. But like, did you see some of those balconies and those windows?
Beautiful. Yeah.
It's a gorgeous place.
The filmmakers didn't even notice the building in Spain has on the top of the building this woman being grabbed by the ankle by a monster. I kid you not. The building they shot in had that on, and like it's almost like something called them to film that movie there in a sense of irony. They didn't know until after they were done.
Wow. And that's something you totally could have added. Like, you had to bring that girl to this building because this building is the key to curing her.
I mean, talk about the one time you want an aerial shot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it doesn't work. You shouldn't have an aerial shot.
No.
But, goddamn, put that in your press kit or something.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, gonna go look that up later.
Yeah.
The architecture is just so amazing. There's so many wonderful
And
moves.
I mean, that's the thing about that early 20th century, I guess. Yeah, 20th century architecture, right? Like late 1800s, early 1900s. You get some really nice, interesting stuff happening in the buildings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those buildings were built to be buildings for as long as they'd be buildings.
Yeah.
Like, they're not...
And maybe that's a part of the problem with the remake, too, is it still felt like in a Spanish building, but
in an American...
it didn't...
It didn't look like it fit.
No, it didn't have that Los Angeles, that California normal apartment look with those long hallways. That's not what the average apartment building will look like.
Or at least not what we've been trained to expect from them.
I certainly appreciated how they were trying to grab that and tried to recapture those scenes, especially through some of those long hallways. But
the staircase is very important.
Yeah.
All the way through the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
But they have buildings that would have served that purpose very well and still kept that American sensibility.
Yeah.
Versus the trying to bring the Spanish sensibility into an American movie.
Even an Art Deco building.
Yeah.
I think that would have done
It's so close, but still manages to say less, even though it's a longer runtime. I wouldn't call it a failure, but a fascinating misstep of just missed moments.
Well, it's very how, like, a societal view, like a lens, can kind of misstep the original intent of a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because they made some changes, but they didn't really serve what the first one was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, that comes back to, I think, American filmmakers not respecting their audiences.
Yeah.
Right, to a certain extent. I mean, they do, but not as much as they deserve.
Yeah. Well, I think we can put a bow on this one. We're starting to retread the same ground. But, yeah, first reality found footage movie we've ever done. Don't know if there's another one, but here's a thought. Do you want us to remake one? Through our patented Invasion of the Remake versions. Remake.
Let's remake one with us.
How many times I can say remake in a sentence?
No, remake that
and have
sentence.
it still make sense?
And still make sense. I don't know if it's even possible. Let us know what's your favorite, or maybe a found footage movie that had potential and then it's just kind of sucked, because that's kind of what we do, is fix it. Let us know what found footage movie might be worth remaking. I don't know. It could be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be really tricky because we've already discussed how I don't want to put recognizable faces, so now I got to research actors nobody knows.
We can do that.
We can do that.
Or just cast us.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll just
you've
be
never
in the
seen
movie.
us.
Nope.
Yes.
We could run around a forest or something. I don't know.
But yeah, you can let us know what a possible found footage movie we could do as a remake, and send us your suggestions over at Invasion Remake on Twitter, Invasion the Remake on Facebook and Instagram, and Invasion the Remake at gmail.com. Do us a favor, help spread the word. Please, when you see us post a new episode, we love it when you give it likes and stuff, but also share it out with your friends. Make sure your friends see those episodes. Mm-hmm. Your word of mouth really helps. So share it out to your friends, and also tell them where to find the podcast. We're on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio, Player FM, Blueberry, Audio Boom, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and
frickin' YouTube.
That's right. Come check us out in all those places. And if you're listening to the podcast on your podcast providers, we drop every Tuesday. And if you're on YouTube, every Thursday. And the entire library is not on YouTube. So if you are just coming in late and you want to get through the entire library, go find us on one of those other platforms, because that's the entire library is on all the podcast app providers. And if we're not on one, let us know. Maybe we can rectify that. Nice. So, but we're on so many that it's highly unlikely you won't find us.
Share us like a BCM protocol.
Yes, but
not sealed off in a building.
Yeah, but,
just within the building, like it's really infected.
That's right. So yeah, spread the infection by making sure you like and share our posts on Facebook and Twitter, and that'll help get more
earballs
on the show.
And this is an infection people will be happy to have, not like the other ones.
That's right. All right, well, that's Rec. That's also Quarantine. And,
so do you think they'll let us out of this building?
Oh, I don't know about you, but I live here. I'm fine.
Okay.
For now.
For now. Yeah, good luck.
Okay. Hopefully we won't get shot.
But I can't even go out the back door. She doesn't have one.
I don't have a back door. Crawl through my upper story window and then crawl across my neighbor.
Yeah.
There we go.
And hopefully they don't see you, but it's only 2 floors.
Knowing my luck, it'd become like one of those teen comedy movies and my pants would fall down and I'd be my naked ass like against the window.
Yeah, you just like get caught on the roof, your pants, and then you're just swinging.
Yeah. Why do I see Trish outside the window with a boombox?
Yes.
Yeah. No.
That
It
is
would.
me. Thank you.
My movie would totally turn into a Will Ferrell movie for me.
Just you swinging in time to the music.
Well, I already know I'm not going to go see
Help
that.
me.
You don't want to.
All right, well, I have been and still uninfected Jason.
I am always Sam, infected or otherwise.
I am Trish. Who knows at this point?
And we are out of here.
They were biting her face off.
Get over here. We gotta get out of here.
I'm not moving. I'm done. I'm not moving.
We wait here. We have to get out of here.
Listen, there might be a way out. There is a drain cover in the basement that joins up with the sewers.
You need the key. You need
The keys are in our apartment.